All right, there are new developments over the protests at Columbia University here in New York City. DHS officials entered the school overnight. They executed a search warrant on 2 student residences. The escalation, of course, comes as more protests are expected today over the arrest of pro-Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil. Mahmoud Abbas is the Palestinian Authority president. And yesterday, nearly 100 protesters were arrested after staging a sit-in at Trump Tower demanding Khalil's release from an ICE facility in Louisiana. In just a few hours, there is a court deadline in the fight to set him free. So let's get straight to CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman, who is joining me now in Studio 55 to talk about this. So Katrina, first of all, this activity that's happening in court today, what can we expect?
So there's not a court hearing today, Vlad, but there are a number of filings that are due. One of them is a joint letter where both parties are going to propose next steps. We're also expecting some filings that are oppositions, both from the government and from Khalil's side. But notably, last night, Khalil's lawyers also filed an amended habeas petition where they just go more specifically into what they think is egregious here. They say that his constitutional rights are being violated, both free speech and due process. And they say that the government is exceeding their authority here and that this is really retaliation and punishment for Khalil's speech on campus.
So let's talk about this Trump administration letter that was sent to Columbia University to Columbia's president. In order to restore Columbia's federal funding, the president has threatened to cut that off. What kind of precedent does it set? Is it normal?
This is absolutely not normal, okay. Vlad. I mean, these are pretty extreme demands. One of them is that they get rid of the university's judicial board and that all the authority go to the president of the university, which I think is also interesting in light of how we see Trump trying to consolidate the executive branch for the national government. They're asking for a mask ban on campus and that if students are wearing masks, it could only be for religious or health reasons, that they have to wear an ID because a lot of these protesters are wearing masks to conceal their identity. They want a formalized definition of anti-Semitism. There are a number of demands, but really what we're seeing is Columbia almost seems like a test case here for them to wield this powerful federal funding that the university relies on, make these demands, and I think that they want to see how this plays out at Columbia, which is also a school that's always been known for free speech. It's a school of protest. I went there. That's just a normal thing on that campus and a huge part of its history.
Yeah, I mean, I attended the university as well. My father attended the university back in the 1960s when Green Hall was a common site for protests. Back then it was the Vietnam War. So I wonder then, as an attorney yourself, the administration is asking the Supreme Court to weigh in on something that's not related to what we're talking about with Columbia, but it is still something that's sort of interesting to a lot of people, the birthright citizenship ban that the president has toyed with implementing. It's enshrined in the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Is the Supreme Court even willing to hear this?
So what's specifically being asked for right now is the Trump administration wants the Supreme Court to limit the nationwide injunction that has been imposed so he can't execute his executive order on birthright citizenship, because there's been 3 different courts now that have rejected this. And also just from a broader standpoint, any lawyer that I've talked to, even conservative ones, say that this birthright citizenship issue is really an open and shut case, they think. But what he's trying to say is that these injunctions that are being implemented by district courts shouldn't be able to be imposed across the whole nation. It should be limited to the people involved in the states, the plaintiffs, those particular states, and that just a district court in a certain state shouldn't be able to affect nationwide policy. It's notable because conservatives have used that as a tool a lot. During the Biden administration, it's how they got mifepristone limited. They went to a very tiny court in Texas, and a nationwide ban was implemented at that time.
So, the thing, Katrina, that I keep seeing is Elon Musk, who's not an elected official, but who wields enormous influence and power, not just because he owns a social media platform where he's able to amplify sometimes misinformation and mistruths, in addition to other things, but he has the ear, obviously, of the President of the United States, calling for the impeachment of certain judges who they disagree with when they rule against them. And I just think that that's, first of all, the impeachment process for a judge is probably, there are probably a lot of bars to hurdle over, but just getting people to start to vociferously call for that on social media can lead to problems, death threats from some of these judges. Have you ever seen anything like this?
I mean, not quite like this, but I feel like the judicial system has been under threat for a while. Even during Trump's own trials, those judges were receiving a barrage of threats, even the assistant to one of the judges. So we're really seeing an attack on the judicial system and the administration trying to wield a lot of control. I mean, even just starting with Columbia University and their own university judicial branch.
Yeah, it does strike me that of the three branches of government, the judicial branch is the one that, given that the legislative branch is lockstep with the president, obviously the executive branch is the president, that the sole bulwark against democracy failing in, or at least some of our democratic institutions, I should say, is the judiciary. So we'll see what that means in the future. Always great to have you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy Friday.